Good morning, beautiful people. I woke up so happy this morning because I had no hip pain from sleeping on my sides.
Hey, beautiful.
Starting off my day with a quick bump check, then a very necessary morning stretch, and then I dive right into my morning skincare routine. I've been loving this line by Germaine de Cappuccini. It's very gentle. This is their milk cleanser. It's just so smooth, and this is so funny. I use my hands to give myself a quick face massage when I'm low on time. It's just so much easier. And then I use these organic cotton cloths to dry my face. Do not use your body towel for your face towel. Moving on to their hydrating toner and the vitamin C. It's worked wonders for me so far. Then I rehydrate with the Zero Sing Spray, and I add on my favorite hyaluronic B5 serum by Skin C, and also this awesome lip moisturizer by Skin C. It's cream based, and I don't always like to use the sticky lip balms. And then I just add on my salt stick deodorant. I stopped using regular deodorant years ago, and the salt stick now works fine for me. No, I do not smell. And now let's just make my coffee and breakfast with me. What is up, guys? I just woke up from a nap. I feel a fatigue that I'm not used to. It's like sometimes I wake up tired and I'm not used to that feeling, so I'm trying to just be understanding that it is what it is. The energy that I used to have is just not there. I have just under 2 months to go as I'm really entering and like going through my third trimester. I'm really feeling it. I'm eating a little bit more as well. Like, I'm always hungry. So far I've gained 28 pounds, which is wild. I know that I had posted a video about like how things were my first trimester, but now that I'm kind of in my third trimester, I felt like I could do like a little combo of what my second trimester was like. First things first, I'm gonna give an update on my skin because I know I talked a lot about my skin during my video wrapping up the first trimester, but my skin so far has been very manageable. I haven't really been having breakouts. I have had like 1 or 2 during the second trimester, and so far 1 during the third trimester. Here it is here. I barely popped this. Like, I think I just like lightly touched it because it was so ready to go, and it left like a huge scar, but I'm getting used to that and waiting for it to fade away, because I promise you guys, like, nothing works like tretinoin works in fading my scars. Like, I swear by that, and I miss it so much, and I cannot use it while I'm pregnant, so I'm just counting down the days until I can use my tretinoin again. But the second trimester was good. My energy was okay. Like, I kept working out, nothing too intense. In terms of doctor visits, I just had an extra screening to just kind of check out the size of the baby, make sure that the baby was growing fine during the second trimester. So it looks like I'm just gonna have 3 sonograms total. These are our visits, like, to a specialist outside of my regular checkups with my OBGYN. The second sonogram went well. My husband was there, and like, we were taking pictures. Baby was bouncing around. Of course, the baby wasn't in like the right position for them to like measure bones and arms and neck. So I had to like do a bunch of hip thrusts per usual. What I did notice during my sonogram appointment was like my fibroid. It just looked a little bit bigger. I remember pre-pregnancy, one of my gynos had told me that I had a small fibroid in the uterus, or it was outside the uterus, but told me not to worry. During the sonogram appointment, I like saw that it had grown a little bit, and I asked the specialist about that, and I was like, great to see that the baby's doing fine, but like, my fibroid, something just like, it just looks a little bit bigger. And he was a little bit dismissive. He was kind of just saying, I barely noticed it. It's very common amongst women of color. And I don't know where his stat came from, like why he was like, maybe, I'm sure he was just sharing just to share, like to reassure me, but it didn't reassure me, because it's like, well, if most women of color deal with this, like, what should we do about it? Like, how is that stat relevant to me right now. All I did was kind of ask you about, hey, my fibroid is growing, should I be concerned? That was his answer. That's all he said. Fast forward a month or so, a month and a half or so into my second trimester, I start to feel intense cramps as I'm taking a walk. And I try to just relax. Like, I go to bed, I drink a lot of water that night. It wasn't as intense. Wake up the next day, the cramps are still there. And at this point, I'm worried. I email my doctor's office. They tell me to go to the hospital, just like go into triage and test me for preterm labor. Like, no pregnant woman in her second trimester wants to hear that. So I was trying my best to remain calm. Obviously, it was very stressful. My cramps are intensifying at this point. I get to triage, they check me in, and they put a monitor on me to check the baby's heart rate. The staff that was there just checked my cervix to see if it was like opening, if I was in fact going into preterm labor. They first check the cervix when you get there, and then they check your cervix after like about an hour and a half or 2 hours to see if it has like opened up at all, to see if it is indeed preterm labor. She comes back an hour and a half later. I'm kind of just hanging out in the hospital room, and says, good news, it's not preterm labor. And I was like, okay, great, but where are these cramps from? And then the PA looks at me and is like, I think it's your fibroid. Like, the fibroid that the doctor during my sonogram visit told me was of no concern. I mean, this guy was literally like dismissing the fact that I even had a fibroid. He was just kind of like, barely noticed it, like, who cares? Come to find out from the PA that my fibroid, which I thought was like 3 centimeters, she was like, no, it's grown to like almost 6 centimeters. It's like, how? She was saying that it's very common during pregnancies for your fibroid to grow bigger and faster. And she says that that's probably what was giving me pain. She inserted her glove and located my fibroid. She basically pressed it up so that I could see how it was forming a bump like outside of my uterus. I could literally see it poking out. It looked like a small golf ball, basically like a little lump. And she was like, now do you feel pain? When she pressed against that, I literally thought I was gonna faint. Like, the pain just intensified because I was having cramps, but I couldn't locate exactly where the pain was. And when she pressed against it, it was like, oh my gosh, there it is. And then it was as if she just activated what felt like the worst pain I've ever felt, ever. After the PA located the pain, I was like, how in the world could my fibroid be causing this much pain? Because my OBGYN and my specialist said that they barely noticed it. It was nothing to worry about. She says that there's something called fibroid degeneration. While before my fibroid was growing at a rapid rate, eventually the baby started taking up too much room and was kind of like almost essentially blocking the blood supply that the fibroid had. And that causes the fibroid to degenerate or to basically die off. The signals that the fibroid sends off when it's dying or degenerating is what I read online. I've never had a contraction before because this is my first pregnancy, but I read online that you experience contraction-like pain. It was extremely intense. It just felt like a tightening of my uterus, cramp-like, but almost like burning. Like but like burning inside of you. It started intensifying like crazy. It would come in at like this like contraction-like feeling, and then it would release. And then it was happening about like every 10 or 15 minutes the first day. And then, you know, better in the morning, worse towards the evening. It would wake me up at night. I was waking up like every hour or so, just like breathing through these contractions. Wake up the next morning. I think I was standing just to like make myself some coffee and breakfast. And then that was it. I was like on bed rest for the rest of the evening. It got worse the next day. And finally, the third day, it was still bad, but the contraction-like cramps that I was experiencing were happening at longer intervals. So like every hour or so, I would have an episode versus within an hour, I think the first 2 days I was having like 2 or 3, like probably up to like 6 episodes. It was so painful. I'm just blown away just thinking back, like how this fibroid that the doctors said were, oh, nothing to worry about, now became such a huge problem. It was hurting like crazy. Finally, by the 4th day, I was still on the couch, like getting up a little bit more. I tried to take a walk. My contractions were still happening, but just a lot less during the morning and frequent during the evenings. This happened for about, I guess it was like that for maybe 2 or 3 more days. So in total, I spent 7 days in pain. It just takes some time for the fibroid to die off. My OBGYN told me that the pain would last about 2-3 days, and mine lasted up to a week. It was just really bad for 2-3 days. When the pain, like those little contractions would hit me, I was breathing through it so much, and there was nothing that I could really take for the pain. I could take something called NSAIDs, which is like in the ibuprofen family, which a lot of you know is not safe to take when you're pregnant. But apparently the PA at the hospital said that it's safe, you know, up until 32 weeks, because that's when it could affect the baby's heart. But I was like 27 weeks, and I just felt like that time was way too close to 32 weeks, and I was in my head a lot. So I didn't feel comfortable taking the NSAIDs, although I did tell them to just like make the prescription, send it into my drugstore, and then like I'll pick it up if it gets bad. At some point the pain was so bad, and like my husband couldn't stand seeing me in pain anymore. He went to CVS to pick up my prescription, and they didn't call it in. I guess there was like maybe a miscommunication, but I took that as a sign. I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna take this thing. So when the pain was really bad, I like took 2 Tylenols. Didn't help much. The second day when I took a Tylenol, like it helped a little bit, but the pain would just come back like 2-3 hours after. So it did give me like a little bit of relief, but I just really braved through it, and I was just taking the pain, doing a lot of breath work. At the time, I had already started, you know, learning a little bit about hypnobirthing and kind of the ice trick where you hold ice cubes in the palm of your hands for a minute and you breathe through it, as you know, just like in preparation for labor. I was doing that a lot just to really kind of work through these intense cramps that I was experiencing. So just an FYI for any ladies watching this, if you have a fibroid, ask your doctor about fibroid degeneration, because it could happen to you. Again, just to recap, it's when your fibroid's blood supply runs out because it's being taken up by another source, and it just starts to shut down or degenerate, and that dying process is very, very painful. I'm not sure if it's painful for everybody. I know that the pain can happen to about 30% of women. Some women even go through like taking morphine apparently because the pain is so unbearable. I braved through it. I could definitely understand that, like how somebody would want morphine after that. I wanted to share this story because nobody warned me. I had a little bit of a fallout with my OBGYN. I wrote her a long letter, and I was just like, you know, nobody warned me about this. Instead, I was stressed, like thinking I was going into preterm labor when actually my fibroid was going through this. Something that you told me was not really a big deal turned out to be extremely painful. And so I'm sharing my story. I guess especially if you're a woman of color, we tend to get fibroids more. You should just be aware in case this happens to you. What helps is to drink like ample amount of water. Drink so much water. Hydrate all day. Till this day, I try to remind myself to hydrate because it's already important when you're pregnant anyways. But if you have a fibroid and you might be going through fibroid degeneration, try to hydrate and just know that in a few days time, the pain will lessen. Part of the reason why I wanted to start posting more pregnancy content is for that girl who was like me, like that first time mom who things are happening that she had no idea about. Just really want to help others. So that's a little update on trimester 2, and now in trimester 3, things are getting big. I feel like this is really the time when you start getting heavier. The baby moves and kicks so much, which is great. Not everybody's babies moves I have a lot of friends, my mom included. One of her babies didn't move in the womb. That's fine, some babies are just like that, but when they do kick, like if you do have that kicker, let me tell you something, like they will wake you up at night. Another thing I'll be making a video about is my registry items. I've had some really great friends send me their do's and don'ts, and I took it and I tweaked it to my liking and what I think I'll need, because we all probably don't have the same size house or apartment. Like there are things that my friends would recommend that won't fit in my room because the baby will be in my room the first 3 or 4 months or so. Nonetheless, a lot of the recommendations have been super helpful. Yeah, so I definitely want to make a video on that. In the meantime, I've got a couple more months to go. Look at my nails, by the way. I do Russian manicures. If you don't know about Russian manicures, ask about it. Your manicure will last for like 4 weeks. It's a French tip with a very, very baby blue for my baby boy. I'm trying to enjoy my long nails until I have to chop them off when the baby's born. I know not all mamas do that. I just scratched Ricky a few times with these long nails by accident, and I don't want to accidentally scratch my baby. But that is it for my day / storytelling time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you want to keep following for more baby mama content. I'm here for you. Please ask any questions. Mwah.